Caged fish's nutrition comes from fish food. Commercial fish feed contains the balance of proteins, amino acids, vitamins, and minerals the fish need to grow and stay healthy.
In this tank here, we have what we call African catfish fingerlings. These are the fingerlings we supply to the farmers. They stock them in their production systems, cages or ponds, and rear them for over 6 to 8 months, depending on the target market size, so that they can sell them and get some money from this enterprise. On this other side, we have Nile tilapia fingerlings. These ones still, we sell them to farmers. They culture them in cages, in ponds and other production systems. They get money out of them and then they help themselves improve on their livelihoods. Yes, when we are culturing these animals, I have this tin. It's having some small organisms. I don't know whether I can see them. These ones, when these animals have just been hatched from the hatchery, we feed them on what we call, this is artemia. This is hatched artemia. It is present in form of cysts, which we decyst, and also we can go ahead and hatch them. These animals, the African catfish, after breeding, they hatch when they are very small and their digestive system is very poorly developed. So they cannot start depending on these exogenous feeds we produce in the factory. So what we do, we give them these live animals so that we induce their nature of hunting for these animals. In the process of hunting for the food we have provided for them, these animals again contain enzymes which again help these animals to digest them. So we call them exogenous enzymes, in that these animals, when this fish ingests them, they use the animal's enzymes to digest the food when it is in the intestines, and after digestion they are readily absorbed within the system, and as the digestive system develops, then we switch and start giving them powdered feeds. These powdered feeds, if you give them to these young fish when they haven't developed that complex digestive system, you're going to have a lot of mortalities in your hatchery. So in a way to control that, you start with live feed. After 5 to 7 days, then we expect the digestive system to have developed, then you start giving them this powder. And this powder has a high protein content, and this one contains over 45% crude protein. In that, you realize that when these fish are still very young, they need a lot of protein so that they can put on weight and grow. Made of a lot of ingredients depending on the formula we are using, which include fish meal, mukene. We also use soya bean cake. We use premix, we use sunflower, and so many other ingredients depending on the formula we have designed that can perform better depending on the region we are targeting. So then as the fish grow, we have fish pellets, feed pellets. These pellets have varying sizes from 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter, 4 millimeter, 5 millimeter. This difference in pellet size gives us an insight in that when the fish are still young, you realize that we start with live food, we go on to powder, we are looking at the gap, the mouth size of these fish. Give them something they can easily swallow without struggling. So that's why we go on adjusting the pellet sizes. As the fish grows, the mouth size increases, we go on adjusting on the pellet sizes until we reach these bigger pellet sizes, which are for what we can call the adult fish. They can easily swallow it, and it is composed of almost all the nutrients the fish needs so that it can be nourished and it grows as expected within the different culture systems.
When intending to start up a cage fish farming project on Ugandan lakes, there are some procedures one needs to take before acquiring the necessary operating permit, as Philip Rezaula expounds on this procedure.
Very many farmers have got misconceptions about cage culture, and we realize a lot of farmers visit our institution, those who have a chance of accessing us, telling us false information about cage fish farming. Some of them don't know the procedure they have to follow in order to attain that permission to go on the lake and start practicing cage culture. First of all, as a farmer out there, you have to know what you should go through in order to do successfully what we call cage fish farming. It starts with you. You get an idea. Yes, I have a dream of doing cage fish farming, and maybe within a year I'm dreaming to produce 40 tons or 10 tons depending on what you can afford. So after knowing that, you still have an idea of where on the lake it could be easier for you to do it from. So that's where we advise you to first visit your local fisheries offices, basically the district fisheries officer. Consult him. I have this idea, I want to do cage fish farming, what should I do? And this procedure is helping us to ensure that we produce fish in cages without causing other interferences, without affecting the water quality, without affecting the biodiversity which exists in these systems. So this fisheries officer will send you to technical fisheries research institutions, of which we have National Fisheries Resources Research Institute, the leading institution that is responsible for conducting what we call a capability and suitability assessment of the site you have in mind. You want to do cage culture from there, but not everywhere on the lake you can do from cage fish farming. So as a farmer, you come to National Fisheries Resources Research Institute. We conduct an assessment to see whether the site is suitable. If it is suitable, we write a report with recommendations and how you're going to go about the whole process, from acquisition of the permit to stocking to feeding, harvesting, record keeping, and then you go to the market and you sell. We advise you from that point of view, depending on site characteristics we have identified when we are generating the baseline. So after that moment, you take this report to the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. This ministry, under its Department of Aquaculture, they look at the report, look at the recommendations which are there, and then they issue you with what we call a temporary working permit. However, we look at different scales of production. There are some farmers who are looking at way too big investments. For example, someone is looking at more than 50 tons per year. That's the production someone is looking at. They are basically investors. These ones have to do what we call an environmental and social impact assessment. In that, they have to look, how will your project benefit the economy? How will the project interfere with the socio-economics of the area? So you get what you call an environmental impact statement. That is the report from the assessment. You take it to NEMA, and NEMA approves it. The moment it approves it, it again writes to the Ministry of Agriculture so that they can go ahead and issue you with a working permit. First of all, it is a temporary working permit. After getting this permit, you again apply for what we call a water use permit from the Directorate of Water Resource Management, because they are also stakeholders who are responsible for conserving and managing water quality within natural water bodies. After attaining all these documents, then you come down to the ground. You first of all plan for your farm. You have what we call a farm layout. My farm is going to look like this. I'm going to use these kinds of cages, which probably could be circular or rectangular, depending on what you want and what the environment can tolerate. Within that suitability report we issue you, we also advise you on issues of stocking density. Many farmers, they inform them wrongly. Someone gets a cage, puts in a lot of fish than what the system can accommodate. He realized that after 3 months, you're feeding the fish with the best feed you think it is, but they are not growing because you overstocked the system and it reached its maximum biomass it can hold. So after attaining the temporary working permit, yes, you have come on ground, you have set up the system, and then you're operating. After operating, my Ministry of Agriculture, through its Directorate of Aquaculture, they have to come after 1 year. They look at what you're doing, whether it corresponds to what you promised to do. Because you wanted to dodge doing an environmental impact assessment, you under-declared, I'll be producing maybe 20 tons. And then when they reach on the ground, they find you're an investor in a kind and you dodged the procedure. So that actually amounts to disqualification of your license or your operational permit.
Before taking all the trouble to set up your fish cage pond, it is important to have enough knowledge concerning its care and all the other challenges involved. These, however, are easily manageable.
Cage fish farming has challenges, namely there are thieves, of course, because there have not been enough fish in the lake. So if you leave the cages without being secured, then we normally have those attackers, the fishermen, normally come and attack, because you're having a lot of fish in a cage, which can actually, like a cage of 2.5, you are raising 1.5 tons from that cage, and the fisherman has been in the lake fishing, but he has got only one fish, and you are not there. He will come and attack and take those fish. But it has a solution. We have now designed houses which are floating on water, and the person will be there guarding. That is the first challenge. The second challenge is sometimes these fish, they also fall sick like any other animal. But also we have a solution. We treat those fish which are having problems of diseases. For example, some of the diseases that normally affect us, there is those fungal infections. Fungal infections in a local way. We are sometimes use salt bath because it is easy to identify which fish is sick within the cage, because you are seeing them. So when you get those ones, we put them under, we put them in water which is having some salt, and then those wounds heals.
Fish has both nutrition and medicinal values, and because of this, its market has a wide scope. Cage fish has a bigger market advantage since customers will make orders direct from the fresh waters. Fish prices on the market are, however, said to have escalated over the years due to scarcity and increased demand.
Actually, this fish is now 20,000 here. We are selling it 20,000. But if you go to the markets like in the markets outside here, it can be even 30,000. The reason being that we have the population of people who are eating fish is increasing. And now the supply, which is the lake, is remaining in the same unit. That is why actually we are persuading more people to go into farming, because it is the only way to go, so that we can remain having fish. And being expensive, it is also going to be good for that farmer who is going to venture into that, because you will have the market of fish, however much they are expensive, but it will be helping you also to earn a living from the farming.
Uganda still has a huge potential to aquaculture owing to the fact that 18% is covered by water. It is therefore upon Ugandan farmers to follow the proper regulations set up by the government to achieve a sustainable fish supply.